She is a disciple of His Grace Madana-gopāla. She lives in New York and she works in the field of environment. And so she's going to be speaking on Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text number 63, I guess. 63, yeah. So let us welcome Mātājī by chanting together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Madana-gopāla, Krodha bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vipramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasha buddhinashat pranashyati smriti bhramshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati krodha bhavati sammoha smriti vipramaha sammoha smriti vipramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasho smriti bhramshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati buddhinashat pranashyati. Krodha bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vipramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasha buddhinashat pranashyati krodha bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vipramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasha buddhinashat pranashyati krodha bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vipramaha sammoha smriti vipramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasho smriti bhramshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati buddhinashat pranashyati krodha bhavati sammoha sammoha smriti vipramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati.
Translation and report by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Purport. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction. Prabhanshivakaya Bhutaya Hari Sambandhi Vartasuna result, although they desire or deep liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called Veṇu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord, the Absolute, being impersonal, cannot eat. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eaters, a devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus everything becomes spiritualized, and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into a pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. I was born into the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master was opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Before beginning, I would like to seek the blessings of all the senior devotees gathered here today, especially my senior Mātājī senior. Please bless me, along with any other senior devotees who are here, as well as my dear Mādhurī and dearest Guru Mātājī Jr. And please bless me in particular so that I may say something that is in line with Guru Sadhana Shastra, that is uplifting to our hearts and brings us hopefully closer to the lotus feet of the Lord. But also may it please Shri Veṇu Mādhurī. So just before I begin, you may have heard in the introduction that I am a disciple of Madana-gopāla, and here with on a sort of a homecoming tour with His Grace Madana-gopāla, who many of you know was born in Kenya and raised in Kenya before he came to the United States. And we are here to follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada to all the places that he visited in Kenya. And it has been just an incredible trip. And I'd really like to publicly thank Gopinath Prabhu, Sitadevi, Vasi for their incredible tour that we've been taking of all of these sites. So uplifting, so moving, but also so well organized and competent. And it's just a tremendous pleasure to, and thank you for your service. We were also coming into His Grace Madana-gopāla's initiating 6 new disciples here in Kenya. And because 4 of them are here with us this evening, and I know they all love the spotlight, so I'm going to ask them all to please stand up. Yes, I'm going to do it. You have to tell them we're doing it, I have to do it. So, dear Gopal, Gopal, and Ishri. So, thank you so much. I love you all so much, and I offer this class to you. So, just before diving into the verse, I just wanted to give a couple of quick reflections, 2 reflections that center around the Mādhurī beach. One that has to do with the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, which we're reading this evening, and the second one which has to do with the heart of Srila Prabhupada's mission in Islam. So the first little reflection is yesterday our dear Gurudev took us all down to the beach where we watched the sunrise out of the Indian Ocean and gave some very moving reflections, one of which was on the Bhagavad Gita, which she called a love letter to the soul. Which I thought was such a beautiful, profound reflection on the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. And the essence of a love letter is the longing for reunion between two lovers. And that's really what the Bhagavad Gita is, in essence. It's Krishna longing to be with us again. And he's giving us all these instructions and ways that we can return to him. He says, just come to me, just leave your fears behind. I'll take care of everything. I love you, and I want to be with you. So it's like getting a love letter from Krishna when we read the Bhagavad Gita. And it's a beautiful meditation on the Gita. The second reflection on the LA beach is that later in the afternoon, Gurudev took me and the 4 Kenyan devotees that you just saw. We went back down to the beach to go for a swim in Krishna Kata under the palm trees. And, we get some looks on the street, I'll admit. We're sort of a group of people don't see together maybe that often. But yesterday was very extraordinary. People literally stopped and stared at us. And at one point we had a band of small children following us. At one point we ran into a boy came on his bicycle on the back of his parents' bicycle, and he just looked at us like in awe and went, the kids, right? I didn't know if it was from me or Gurudev. It was hard to tell, but it was straight from his heart. And I've been really reflecting on this reaction. And, beyond our embodied, Indian body, white body, African body, it was, I think what really struck people was the tremendous amount of love that we were emanating for each other. We've been meeting on Zoom classes for about a year, and this is the first time we're meeting in person, and we have just fallen in love with each other. And we were just exuding so much love, and I think that people just want that. People are so hungry for that. And Gurudev says that the flagship products of ISKCON, wait for it, because you know what a flagship product is, right? So Apple, their flagship product is the iPhone, right? Nike, Air Jordan's flagship, it's the thing the brand is known for, right? So the flagship product of ISKCON, according to my Guru, is love and encouragement. Those are our flagship products. That's what we're selling, is love and encouragement. And it was amazing to see how much people are hungry for that love. I feel like we could have led Harinam without any words, just walking down the street if we had really wanted to. So I think this is really what Srila Prabhupada wanted. That's what he says. This is the foundation of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is that we come together across nations and we provide love to each other and encourage others to love each other and to love Krishna. So, turning to the verse this evening continues the verse that my dear Guru Mātājī Jr. read 2 nights ago, which was Bhagavad Gita 2.62. So I'm just going to quickly remind you what that translation was. Remember, she spoke so beautifully about, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. And remember, she was talking about, the anger arises because we have lust for these objects that we want, and we're ultimately frustrated by them. And so then anger develops. So I'm going to pick it up at 2.63, and we see what happens once anger develops. So we understand it from when anger develops. Does anyone remember from the verse what happens next? Yeah, illusion, or he Prabhupada translates it as complete delusion. Complete delusion. So I wanted to start with this complete delusion. What is this complete delusion? The Sanskrit is samoha, if I'm pronouncing that right, samoha. So it's made up of 2 words. The first word is sam, the prefix, means together or completely. And the second word is a word that I think a lot of us know is the root word moma, which means deluding, delusion. But it also means in the sense of infatuation or mesmerizing or even hypnotizing, leading us astray. And some of you may know that there's actually a celestial weapon that can do this. And that this Mohan is one of the 5 arrows that Cupid has. You know, when you're struck with Cupid's arrow, you become mesmerized and hypnotized and led astray. Right? So it's that sense of mesmerizingness. I'm going to take a little detour here to say that you may recall that one of the names of Krishna is Madana-gopāla, right? And so Cupid may be tough with his arrows, but Krishna is even tougher. And that Krishna can actually, his charm bewilders Cupid. He actually charms Cupid. And the last stop of this detour is that I just love that my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Satsuru Das Goswami, gave my Guru the name Madana-gopāla, which means the cowherd of that quality that Krishna has that could even charm the pants off of Krishna. And if any of you have spent any time with my spiritual master, you will know that this is the case, that he luckily is also an ocean of mercy, and he keeps the celestial charm up and actually turned down, because if he didn't, we would all be toast. So, I'm done with the teaching there. So, to go a little bit deeper into this complete delusion or illusion. So we know that when we add anger into the mix, it makes delusion or illusion complete. And this kind of complete delusion starts a chain reaction that leads to bewilderment, loss of memory, loss of intelligence, loss of discernment, and then you fall into the material pool. And I'm thinking, what is this material pool? The way I'm thinking about it is sort of, we think about our spiritual activities are trying to take us up and to transcend towards Krishna, right? You see those pictures of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he almost looks like he's floating off of his feet up towards Krishna. This anger, when it walks in, starts off this chain reaction that drags us down, away from Krishna, back towards the material world. And what I was wondering is, what is the source, what is the illusion if you remove the anger, right? So this equation is we're taking the illusion and we're adding anger and we're making it complete and it sets off this chain reaction. What is the illusion itself in the first place? The illusion is the false ego. The illusion is I and me, right? And I and me is actually, and I've heard my Gurudev say something similar, that I, you know what I mean when I say I, it's like the mind that's always talking, saying, I am giving the Bhagavatam class this evening, I need to prepare. Or you may be thinking, I'm wondering when dinner is, and when is she going to stop talking? You know, these things might be going through your mind. You may be thinking, I feel like nobody understands me. All of these things have in common. We're always thinking about I, and mine, and me. And all of those things take us away from Krishna. And the way you can kind of think of this I and me, it is the illusion. It is an illusion. It is the illusion to which anger gets added. It's an illusion because it's really just waves of energy. It doesn't really exist. But you can also think about it as sort of software programming that comes with the hardware of a biological body. It's there for a biological reason for our physical bodies. If we didn't have that I and me, we wouldn't eat, right? I need to eat. Or I am attracted to this person and therefore I am going to reproduce. It's essential. but it's very dangerous, actually. Sorry. So one of the many things I love about this temple is all of these quotes that are on the wall. They're so provocative and deep. And one of them that's over there is a quote from on this exact subject from Lord Rishabhadeva instructing his 100 sons. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence, right? We just talked about that. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinking in terms of I and mine. So this thinking of I and mine is the fundamental illusion. And our false ego is continuously talking in our heads, right? This narrative that's in our heads that's always thinking in these terms because it's biologically programmed. Some of the ways that it takes us away from Krishna is it makes us think that we're in control. You know, we think things to ourselves like, maybe I'll get a master's degree and I'll get a higher salary. We think of things like this all the time, you know. We're not doing this, right? We are not in control of these things. Krishna is in control of these things. Another very simple way that this kind of thinking takes us away from Krishna is that we want to, you know, Krishna wants a relationship with us, and as aspiring devotees, we want a relationship with Krishna, but you can't listen to somebody if you're talking all the time. And, you know, Krishna's like, I'm trying to talk to you, I'm trying to tell you, I'm sending you this love letter, and you're just yapping all the time. I can't get through to you. You know, and that's why japa is so important, because it gives that mind something to look at, mantra, right? To transcend the mind, but also to protect the mind. And you can think about that mind that's always I, mine, like a little child. And have you ever seen modern parents at the dinner table, and they're trying to have a conversation with each other, but the child is just like talking. What do? They give the child an iPad or a phone or any kind of a screen to just distract it, you know? And the child goes quiet and it looks at the little screen, and the parents are like, oh, we can finally have a conversation with each other now. And so the mantra is as the screen to distract our mind so that Krishna can finally get through to us what he's trying to tell us in his love letter. So so that's the illusion, and going back to the anger that makes it complete. How does that work, and why is it so dangerous? Have you ever been in a blind rage? You know that expression of blind rage? I don't think I've ever been in a blind rage. I've been really angry, but you can get so angry that you literally can't see anything. People describe this. One thing that I can relate to is driving in New Jersey. I live in New York City, but my husband and I have a farm property in New Jersey where one day I really hope to have a gopāla. And an extension of the Bhakti Center, and very inspired by Krishna Balaram Farm, Goshala in that respect. But anyway, so I drive from New Jersey to New York to New Jersey, and people drive very, very aggressively there, very aggressively. And somebody once cut me off in driving so egregiously, so rudely, that I became really angry, and my heart rate started to race. And because I had been chanting japa, I was able to observe my mind at least. And it was amazing how my mind just kept coming back to this. I couldn't think about anything else. I had other things I wanted to think about, but it just kept coming back to this person who cut me off. And I realized that there was there's a rush of adrenaline that you feel when you get angry. And it's like this intoxicating, bewildering, hypnotizing, mesmerizing thing that locks you in to yourself. All you can think about is, I've been wronged, I've been wronged, I've been wronged. And it's I. And so it's nailing you to that misconception. You can't think about anything else. Lust is another one of these ones where you just can't think of anything else. And that's why it's so dangerous. You get locked into the misconception of yourself as an ego, as an I that is in control, which is the fundamental barrier to Krishna consciousness. So that's why it's so dangerous. And that's why we have to be really on guard against anger and lust. And if we think back to the verse that my Guru Maharaj took us through, do you remember where it all started? What was the beginning of this chain reaction?
Contemplation.
Of
The object.
the objects of the senses. You're supposed to let me. No, yeah, it starts with material objects, really. It starts with material objects. And that's where the second part of this purport comes into play, is that we should be on guard against material objects. Material objects are not benign. I noticed you did, Devi, I wanted to buy you a really nice hat today, and then I started thinking about it. These objects are not benign. And so, because they can set off this chain reaction, any one of them at any time, we don't know what's going to do it. And so, we need to understand how to renounce material objects. And what is the proper way to renounce material objects? I think just simply stated, we should only really buy what we need. But the verse quoting Shastra talks about false renunciation, or sort of lesser renunciation, quoting from Srila Rupa Goswami. Can anyone define what lesser renunciation is, or less important renunciation? False renunciation. What's false renunciation? False renunciation, again, according to the purport, is you think you kind of have to give up everything, right? We see this in a lot of other traditions. You think about how many Catholic priests kind of give up, certain kinds of enjoyment, and they end up falling because it's not sustainable. There are many monastic traditions where people wear shirts made of hair in order to make their bodies uncomfortable, to remind them that they're not this body. Or they take cold showers and they live these very austere lives, and almost no one can do it. They almost all fall. And so the first time I read the Bhagavad Gita as it is, I thought this was one of the most brilliant concepts. And obviously there were thousands of more brilliant concepts, but that we don't need to falsely renounce material objects because it doesn't work. It's not sustainable. But what we can do, as we all know, is that we can offer everything to Krishna and use everything in Krishna's service. So rather than this Palgu renunciation, which is false or lesser, we know that there's Yukta Vairagya, that we can use everything in Krishna's service. And that's another way to deal with material objects so that they don't, trap us in this way. But it's easier said than done. And it's a very personal thing, and it gets very tricky very quickly. Like, what are we using in Krishna's service, really? And what are we using for our own self-esteem? Or, that can continue to kind of bind us to the sense of I and mine. You might have a very fancy car to escort devotees around, but you might escort devotees around like once a month or twice a month. You know, you might have a very big, or you might have a fancy house for entertaining devotees, but how often are you doing that? You know, and there's no hard and fast answer. I've heard some people say 70, 80%, something like that. But the point is, I think that's useful, and I'm very inspired by my Guru Dev's lecture that always tries to give something practical. I think we can think about it that way. Like anything that you're using, are you using it 70 or 80% for Krishna's service? And if you're not, can you try to increase the amount that you're using it for Krishna's service and decrease the amount, decrease the fanciness, decrease the show-offiness or anything else that might be more about your ego and your sense of your status in the eyes of others than what you really need. But again, all of this is easier said than done, but you can think about it like anything that you're trying to accomplish. You can just try to, slowly ratchet that up and ratchet down what you don't need. And I think as aspiring devotees, we forget about this part sometimes. We think, okay, well, I'm living my life and I'm buying these things and I'm doing all these things and then I'm coming to the temple and I'm doing my sadhana, but what you own and how you own it is very much part of your bhakti. And it's actually, the fourth limb of surrender, right, is having faith that Krishna ultimately will provide everything. So, I think that how we think about what we own and what we buy and how we are attracted and ultimately ensnared by material objects is a very important meditation. I will conclude there and see if anybody has any questions. Yes. Hare Krishna.
So much, Veṇu Mādhurī, for wonderful explanation of that verse. I really like the point when you made that, and you introduced the concept of rage. What is it called?
Blind rage.
Blind rage. Yeah. So I was thinking about it, how a person gets into that anger mode, and how anger takes over the consciousness and the actions and the surroundings of that person completely. So much so that the adrenaline kicks in, and at some time the person does not even feel his body, and they feel a certain kind of a rush. And at that point, it's not about them, it's just about, like how you mentioned, it's just about, I need to do this, that's it. And I was wondering many times when these intense criminal type of action happens, those are the moments. And when a devotee who is trained in chanting properly and focusing and bringing back the mind, that trained devotee can avoid that situation by being conscious. So thank you so much for mentioning that.
Yeah, I like what you said because it highlights the danger of anger, both and it illustrates the verse exactly, right? That you lose a sense of discernment because you've lost a sense of everything. Basically, if you're angry enough, you're just blind to what's in front of you. Yeah, and also the importance of mind control, especially if we want to advance in Krishna consciousness. Do any of my god siblings have any questions? Or reflections? Did you, Radha? No? Yeah.
You said you're like toned down or use your materials, right? To it Krishna consciousness. But as per what we have read is this, we are the children of Krishna, right? And when we are devotees of the Krishna, the material things which are there becomes a part of the spiritual enjoyment we have for Krishna. So if suppose I am intelligent, right? Krishna has given me some intelligence, or someone who is very artistic, someone has given someone very artistic background, they will have to grow in their intelligence and artistic. So someone who is intelligent will do a professional degree and he will earn money and he will use that money for basic Krishna conscious kids, donating for some Krishna causes. So how does that toning it down will help with Krishna consciousness? Because this is all given by Krishna to us, all the intelligence and artistic.
Yeah, so I think to summarize the question, for those of you who couldn't hear it, it was sort of the tension between, okay, you're saying on one hand we should be sort of reducing what we're acquiring, and on the other hand we're hearing that if we just offer it in Krishna service, then it's okay, right? So,
there is one more thing. Krishna has given specific people.
And Krishna has given specific people specific intelligences, artistic intelligences, and things that could be used in this service. Yeah, it's a really good question. Yeah.
So why not use it properly? Go highest level at that and not for all that.
We should, in my, I think we should definitely use our talents that we've been given in Krishna services. Like even if you have artistic talents, like you're saying, that you can use those in Krishna service. I think where it becomes difficult is with material objects. I mean, prasadam is one thing; it's pretty straightforward, right? But I think on other things, there's a lot of judgment calls to be made. You know, so you're taking a risk every time as to whether you're right. Does that make any sense? No. Yeah, so, I don't know, let's take your computer. You know, and maybe you need a certain kind of fundamental computer to do a certain kind of work, but maybe there are lots of other gadgets and widgets and things that are not essential, that are more just for your enjoyment. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's hard to know where to draw those lines if you look at every single thing in your possession. And so as an overall, I think just as an overall guidance, to seek to minimize, and then you don't have to be making those judgment calls. Because you can offer things to Krishna, you know, that are straightforward like food, but it gets pretty complicated pretty quickly, I think. Very good. Do you have any answer to that?
Yeah, I think the struggle is in, say, the flashiness. For example, if Krishna has given you talent to be a superstar tennis player, right? And
so if Krishna has given you, that you become a devotee, does that mean that you give up the glitz and glamour of the lifestyle of a tennis player? You know, traveling all over the world? And it's an interesting question. It actually happened with Prabhupada. There's a devotee by the name of Peter Burwash, who was a world-class tennis player. And he came to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, what should I do? I'm actually doing really good in tennis, and should I give it all up? Be Krishna conscious? He said, no. Be more famous. Be a better tennis player. Now, generally speaking, the glamour and all that, the flashiness that comes with tennis playing, you know, there's so much that comes with it. He said, play tennis for Krishna. In other words, find a way to incorporate this into your Krishna consciousness. So the idea was that maximize talents that Krishna has given us. You know, even if it appears to be materialistically glamorous, but if you use all that fame, so later on he ended up using that fame to talk about Krishna consciousness and encourage vegetarianism, for example. He was one of the biggest spokespersons for the vegetarian movement. At the same time, he's also the keynote speaker for a lot of Krishna conscious events for devotees. And so, my point is that we have to find some ways to bring Krishna strongly enough that the ego part that comes along with that glitz and glamour is completely washed away by Krishna's strong presence. So that's up to us to really find out how we can do that. And it will vary from person to person. For some people, it's better they don't go down that path at all, because they know they're very, very vulnerable to falling down into the ego. They say, you know what, I don't want anything to do with it. And Prabhupada was like, good, you took sannyas, fine, no more tennis, forget it. But for the other person, you'd be a better tennis person. It varies from person to person too, depending on the level of sensitivity. So if you play by the ear and you get guidance, specific guidance from wisdom, those who have more wisdom than us. It can vary from case to case. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Shri Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Bol.